so if you guys remember from last class, we gave our speeches about ourselves. And that was the opening to our speech unit. And you guys didn't get any guidance really on the lesson. I just told you to write a speech by yourself, and we gave them in front of the class. Now we're going to continue, and I'm going to help you guys make your speeches better, and our speech skills better. So we're going to start off with, what types of things did you guys like? Or what made speeches good? What's a good speech?
It's interesting.
If it's interesting, that's good. There's one. Obviously, both the audience wants it to be interesting, and you want it to be interesting. You don't want to have to give a speech about something that you don't enjoy. And obviously, you're not going to give a speech about something that the audience doesn't really enjoy, because then they won't pay attention. It kind of defeats the purpose. Anything else that makes a good speech?
Eye contact.
Eye contact. Obviously, you want eye contact with your audience, because if you don't, it kind of defeats the purpose. The audience isn't going to respect you as much, and they might not even pay attention to your speech. Any other reasons? Or any other things you guys can think of?
You want to have fun and enjoy it.
You want to enjoy your speech. That comes back to make your speech interesting. If you're up here not having fun, or it doesn't look like you're enjoying it, then your audience is going to notice that.
You need to know what you're talking about.
Yep, don't pick something that you don't know about.
Yeah, you shouldn't compare.
Yep, prepare. That's part of being organized. And that's going to bring us into what you guys notice out here. It's the outline. What our next speech is going to be is a persuasive speech. And we're going to write an outline for it. But first, can anybody tell me what a persuasive speech is?
When you're trying to get someone to believe you or do what you want.
Yep, it's hard to describe that without using the word persuade, but basically you're trying to convince somebody to believe what you believe, or get them to be on your side of an argument or an opinion. So that's going to be our next speech. And we're going to go over a outline, because I'm going to have you write an outline for you guys' speeches to help you get organized. So the first part of the speech, which this is also very important, would be your intro. And why is it important to have a good intro?
Hook your audience.
To get your audience attention. If you just start stating facts right away, you're going to lose the audience right away, and you're not going to get to any of the other parts, because they're not going to pay attention to part one. So what are some different ways to hook your audience? I already have a quote up here. You could have a quote by somebody famous or somebody that's well known on the subject, but there's a couple other ways. Yep.
State an interesting fact.
An interesting fact about your topic or whatever you're going to talk about. Good. Does anybody else have any other ones?
How about a joke or something funny?
A joke. Depending upon what the topic is, and make sure it's relevant to the topic, but that could ease the mood and get people willing to pay attention. You guys think of anything else? I'm sure as you guys go through, you guys might come across different ways to keep your speeches interesting and start them out. We'll continue on. Second part I want to talk about is explaining your either quote or your fact or your joke. Don't just throw that out there and then not talk about it, because then the audience is going to wonder where that fits in. But if you take a quote and then you start to explain your process, you can kind of tie that in. That leads us to the last part of the intro, your thesis statement. Can anybody tell me what that is?
Parts of your speech.
Basically what you're going to talk about. And you want to tell the audience what's coming in your speech before they even hear it. Don't make anything a surprise to them, because that's when they're going to decide whether they're really interested in your speech or not. So make sure you have a very well thought out and designed thesis. That brings us to part one. What's gonna be your first part of your speech?
Your first reason?
Your first reason. So this would be a persuasive speech, so it'd be your reason why you think whatever you think about the topic. So this would be reason one. So once you throw out reason one, you're gonna have to explain it a little bit. So on your outlines, you could have put A, B, however many little things you need to put in there to keep you organized. If reason one is pretty short and there's only like one really thing you're gonna talk about, then just put A. But if there's a couple different ones, or there's a couple different facts that have to do with that reason, then you can put B or whatever you kind of want to memorize for your outline. And then, hopefully, before we get into part two, hopefully you guys are gonna have more than one reason why that you believe this. So here, you go part two, and you have reason two, and you kind of continue on that way. Do you guys understand that? Even though I didn't put it on the board? Alright. Here we get down to part two. Can anybody tell me what the counter argument is? In your
Like
speech.
the other side of the story, the other person.
Yep, it's basically, once you say all your reasons, what do you think somebody else would say, but I still, what about this and this? So, let's look at the presidential debate. If you're giving a speech on, I think Donald Trump should be president because whatever, whatever, and you give your reasons, and part two, the person would be like, well, I think Hillary Clinton would be president because Donald Trump is bad at this, or she's better at this. And this would be the part where you talk about that. You would recognize that people might say that, so they know you're open to that. But then you go ahead and talk about, but it'd still be better than her, even without this, or even with that. So once you get done with basically your body of your speech, then you write your conclusion. Can you tell me what you think your conclusion should be? Because this was definitely something that in your personal speeches, a lot of people didn't have a conclusion. You just finished up about yourself and that was that. Can anybody tell me what a conclusion would be?
Summary.
Basically, you're summing up what you talked about.
And you wanna restate your thesis.
Yep, you want to restate your thesis. What's something that you probably shouldn't do in your conclusion?
New facts.
Exactly, new facts. Don't leave your audience thinking about something that they're like, well, we didn't talk about that. Where's that coming from? Because that kind of defeats the purpose of your persuasive speech. Your persuasive speech, you're supposed to give all the facts in the speech, instead of just leaving the audience something to think about. So basically that is the intro, or the outline of your persuasive speeches. So now we're gonna move in to talk about what you guys are gonna write about. So you guys are gonna write a persuasive speech, but I'm not just gonna have you go off, I wanna talk about different topics. But it's really important for you guys to pick a topic. So we're gonna take a few seconds, and I want you guys to start naming different topics that you think you guys would enjoy talking about.
Well, we could use your example of the election.
Yep, the election. That'd be one that some people might feel really strongly about, but it's also one that's gonna have a lot of information on it. But it's also gonna be one that a lot of people are gonna hear. So you gotta look at the pros and cons of choosing that. So if you did feel really strongly about that, then that'd be a good thing. Does anybody else have any other things they think about?
Why youth sports are beneficial to kids.
Yeah. One that speeches I've heard before is football. Does football benefit little kids or does it hurt little kids? You could go on that, or you could just go all sports. Do we have any others?
You could talk about Colin Kaepernick.
Yep, and the protests. One thing that I will warn you about in some speeches, you have to know your audience. If that speech can be a touchy subject with different cultures. Same with the election one. So you're not gonna go in and say Colin Kaepernick is completely wrong in an audience that you know is gonna disagree with you no matter what. So that's one of those things you gotta know your audience. Like, you're not gonna go in and try to convince a bunch of Democrats to vote for Donald Trump. You're not gonna win that battle. Can you name some other ones?
Gun control.
Gun control. Gun control is one that is widely used, but it's also one that people are pretty open to learning about, because there's always new facts coming out about that, and there's always new things happening on both sides. Let's have a couple more.
Abortion?
Abortion. That's another one that's widely used, but it's also another one that you'll have to be careful about, like which way you go. Can you guys think of any in our state or our town? I know up at SDSU, they have a big debate on the tailgating and whether the college should be as strict on underage drinking, or they should have it there and control that. That might be one that's interesting for somebody that has an older brother or sister that goes there or has been to an SDSU game. That'd be something that not many people maybe know about and you could be interested about. So I want you guys to take these last few minutes of class, and I want you to decide on what your speech topic is. And if you decide fast and you have time to start writing a little outline, go ahead and do that. But next class, we will have that persuasive speech, and it should be a 3 to 5 minute persuasive speech. And you guys should have your outline ready to turn in, and you should be ready to give the speech next class. But we won't obviously get to all of them because we don't have enough time. But everybody should be ready.